Good morning, Scott Cox. And can we say good morning to our guest because we've been
Is he there?
keeping him waiting? Yes, he is.
I haven't even looked up at the screen. I did not know.
State Senator Dean Florez joining us, and it's been a long time since we've been able to check in and find out what's been going on in Sacramento. Good morning, Dean. I believe he's there.
I'm just kidding you guys.
Oh, that's
I just
cold.
wanted to give Scott, some pause and say, there, I told you it wasn't on.
See, you know what?
I
It
love
worked,
it.
too. Yeah, you know what? Sometimes you got to appreciate when you get worked. Well done, sir.
Keeping the sense of humor in spite of all that's going on. Okay, Dean. So the latest controversy now with the lieutenant governor nomination, something that could I guess affect you in the long run more so than ever because of your race for lieutenant governor, right?
Well, yeah, obviously the race is very fluid, and we've been watching people come in and out of this race. But, the announcement, or at least the thought process that Gavin Newsom, the mayor of San Francisco, might enter the lieutenant governor race is going to be quite an interesting day in Sacramento.
Wow.
Man, I guess. But in the case of Maldonado, though, if they want to just give him this job and plug him in the interim, the mood that the electorate's in, do you really think the incumbent thing is really that big of an advantage? Because it seems to me people are just in the mood to get rid of incumbents.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's an advantage either way, because if Abel is, in essence, approved, he will have the title of interim lieutenant governor, and he is also running for lieutenant governor, so he'll also have the title of state senator. I'm not sure which is a worse title for the electorate that's very angry at its Congress and, of course, very angry at its legislature. So I don't think it has an advantage either way. I think the real issue with Abel Maldonado is whether or not the governor should have put someone up who would have been a placeholder, kind of taken the politics out of this entire issue. And, for as much as people point the finger at the legislature for playing politics, the governor could have followed what other governors have done and picked folks who, in essence, were going to fill out the term, not run for office, and, in essence, allow for the electorate to vote for lieutenant governor in June and in March. But the governor chose not to do that. In fact, he picked someone who not only is running for lieutenant governor, but will then have the title of lieutenant governor. So I think this thing got really political right off the bat because the governor didn't, in essence, pick someone everybody could simply say, look, just a placeholder, it's going to keep the office until the electorate makes a decision.
Yeah, whatever happened to the time-honored tradition of just putting somebody in there in the interim who doesn't really want the job?
And not only that, Dean, but when you appoint someone who's already holding an office, a state senator, then what happens to that position? Do you have to have a special election to fill that seat?
Yeah, exactly. And then we have a $2 million special election now missing in June, a whole new election in August that will cost us $3.5 million. Why do all that? There clearly in California are enough people that could fulfill that job that simply say, I'm going to fill this job because it's my public duty. I'm not running for office after this, and I'm very pleased that the governor put me here. I think that would have sailed through the legislature very easily, but the fact that the governor picked someone who is actively utilizing this position in order to run for lieutenant governor made it political right off the bat. And, it wasn't as partisan as people say. The state Senate, the House I'm part of, voted for the Maldonado nomination overwhelmingly, over two-thirds, and sent it over to the state assembly. Now, I voted no, but there were more Republicans on our floor that voted against Maldonado's nomination than Democrats. So I think, at least in our House, it was a very nonpartisan type of a vote. But when they ran into the assembly, the assembly is obviously a very partisan place, full of folks who may have not spent as much time in the legislature and who have very, very strong opinions on lots and lots of bills that Senator Maldonado may not have voted for, and so in his past. So I think that was a real problem by the time he got to the assembly.
We're speaking to State Senator Dean Florez, and Dean, this seems to me to again be the result of term limits, and because first you had the current lieutenant governor going for a seat for Congress that opened up, and everybody looking to the next step because they can only serve a limited amount of time in the state legislature. I wonder if we're ever going to get what we pay for as the electorate if every time you guys get into office you have to start looking ahead.
Well, yeah, a lot of it is people start to, in term limits, run up or run sideways or run down. Some people are running for supervisor, some people run for Congress, some people run, the speaker's going to announce today that she's running for Congress. And, it does make for a less of a stable place. But in the end, I mean, the people who are good make it, and the people that don't. And I think it's just the nature of what where things are going. I mean, I thought Evan Bayh stepping out of the U.S. Senate, saying, "Look, this place is broken. I don't no longer feel I can serve here in this capacity." He said something that really struck me. I was watching the news last night, and he said, "People can serve outside of government. You don't have to be in government to make a difference. You can actually serve and actually do a great job in terms of the public, but you don't have to be in government." I thought that was very brave of him.
Yeah, you could actually make the case pretty easily that you could. It would be easier to do more good for the public outside of the government than you could inside it, where everything's vapor locked.
Scott, I think there's something to that. I mean, obviously this place is broken. Obviously it needs reform.
But how do you fix it if you let a whole bunch of people that then don't care perhaps as much as those who just throw up their hands? Because I think the good guys are finally saying, gosh, I can't deal with this anymore, yet somebody has to be in charge, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the real issue is that you need a very nonpartisan type of environment where people feel free to vote for things that might hurt them politically, be a little courageous sometimes in terms of making if you will, even your own electorate mad in order to make the right decision to turn California around. And that's very difficult today. There isn't a Republican that's going to vote for a tax increase. There isn't a Democrat that's going to vote to scale back any worker protections or any sort of protections for workers that might be necessary in order to bring the budget down. When that dissipates, when people can see that we're in such a crisis that all decisions have to be on the table, and we all have to make, if you will, the wrong political decision sometimes for our own parties, that's when the system's going to change. But that hasn't occurred, and it probably won't occur until we get, people to realize that all the good people are leaving politics. Evan Bayh left. A lot of folks you're going to start seeing people saying, you know what, I think I can make a bigger change outside of government rather than being in government. And I think you're going to start seeing that in this election cycle. A lot of folks are going to make that same type of decision.
Will you?
In government for many, many years.
Do you see yourself making that same decision? Because I know you were talking about the
fluid. I'm really pondering that. I know everyone's geared towards me running for lieutenant governor, but I myself, having been in the legislature now 12 years and as a staffer here, am really thinking about whether or not I might have a larger impact outside of the sector called, the legislature or even a statewide office. And so I'm trying to find a place where I can truly make a larger difference, I think, for the people that I've loved serving, the people of Kern County and the Central Valley and all Californians. And maybe government, may not necessarily be that particular case. I will see. I mean, time will, I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to make a decision by March 12th. Gavin Newsom's trying to make a decision by March 12th. One of our opponents, Janice Hahn, has got to make a decision by March 12th. And I think all of us, what people don't see is we also have to ponder sometimes, unless you're just a career politician and just you just run and run and run just to hold office after office. I mean, I'm not that person. I came from the private sector to serve, and I've loved serving for the last 12 years. But at some point, you have to take a pause, just like Evan Bayh did, and ask the question, where can I have the most impact, and does it have to be in government? And so, yes, I'm absolutely pondering all of the possibilities and alternatives.
How much does the governor's race, how much does that, honestly, if it looks like EMEG's going to be able to just buy this thing outright, does that make it less appealing for you as lieutenant governor or anybody else?
So, yeah, I mean, the governor's race is a $100 million proposition at this point in time.
Yeah.
I think you'll see Meg Whitman spend near, $80 million.
Yeah, she's got $40 million of her own money in it already.
Yeah, Jerry Brown hasn't done much, and look at
all he's got to do is wait it out. He doesn't have any big Democrat.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting race. That race, I mean, Scott hit it right. Meg Whitman's spending $2.5 million a day telling Californians who she is, and I assume that she'll spend $2 million a day telling us who Jerry Brown is once this race starts and Jerry announces. So it's going to be a very, very expensive race. The down-ticket races like lieutenant governor or secretary of state or insurance commissioner, those, are low-budget items. But look, I've raised over $1 million. That might get me on the radar screen. It may not in California, given the amount of spending in the governor's race. So, I mean, it really is a question of, the money is getting so large. You almost have to be self-financed millionaires to run like Meg Whitman, unless you're Jerry Brown that has lots of name recognition as a past governor. Very difficult to get your name out there. And, the only way to do it nowadays is to use television, and that's very, very expensive.
Dean, we have to take a quick break. Can you hold on and just so we can wrap this up when we come back?
Of course.
Great. Talking to State Senator Dean Florez about, well, mainly the governor's race, the lieutenant governor's race, and politics in general.
All right, we'll be right back after these important messages. You're listening to the Scott Cox Show. It's Kern Radio, and we're bigger and better. AM 1180.